Back in the late 80s and early 90s, making video games wasn't nearly as expensive as it is today. But as home consoles and gaming rigs got more powerful, development costs shot up too. Now, most games cost tens of millions to make, and some are way more expensive. In the past decade, the number of games costing over $50 million to develop has exploded. This doesn't even include the huge costs for marketing. While most of these games do make money, the numbers involved can be mind-blowing and really show how massive and competitive the gaming industry has become. In 2023, the video game industry was valued at $250 billion and is expected to hit $360 billion in the next 3 years. Developers and publishers are pouring more money into their games to capture a bigger market share, and as a result, the record for the most expensive game has been broken several times. Today, we're diving into the most expensive games ever made, or still being made. Let's kick things off with Final Fantasy VII. You might be wondering how much a 3D game could really cost, right? Well, jumping into 3D was always going to jack up development costs, but no one expected it to be this much. Final Fantasy VII was the first game in the series to go 3D, and it reportedly cost Square around $40 million to develop, with another $40 million spent on marketing in the West. Square's bold marketing strategy really paid off though, as FF7 became the first JRPG to make a real splash outside of Japan. It's now considered one of the best Final Fantasy games ever, and its impact on the series and the genre is still felt today. It might have been one of the priciest games to make, but it's also one of the most successful. Add another $20 million and we get Dead Space 2. Many fans consider it the best of the original Dead Space trilogy. The game took everything that worked in the first and made it even better, giving players a thrilling experience that plays on feelings of isolation to really ramp up the scares. But all those improvements came at a steep cost, with the developers later revealing that Dead Space 2 set them back $60 million to make. Some argue it was money well spent, considering Dead Space 2 is the highest-rated game in the series on Metacritic, even beating out the original and the 2023 remake. But despite all the praise and millions of copies sold, it didn't manage to turn a profit, showing how risky it can be to pour tens of millions into a single game. Up next is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This latest chapter in the Tomb Raider reboot series ended up being Lara Croft's priciest adventure to date. According to Eidos Montreal's David and Fossey, the production budget landed somewhere between $75 and $100 million, with an additional $35 million for marketing and promotion. Thankfully, the game did really well commercially, selling over 4 million copies in the first 3 months. While the Metacritic scores weren't quite as high as its predecessors, critics still gave it a solid reception. Considering the strong sales, it's clear that both Eidos Montreal and Square Enix likely saw a nice return on their investment. For the next one, we've got Defiance. This one's kind of a mystery when it comes to its price tag. Defiance was an MMO third-person shooter released in 2013 for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. While it didn't exactly blow critics away, it managed to build a decent player base and hung on for 8 years before the servers were finally shut down in early 2021. The game's massive budget definitely played a role in its longevity, although exactly how much was spent is still a bit of a guessing game. Forbes reported that the total project cost around $100 million, which also included a sci-fi TV series of the same name. They estimated about $80 million went into the game itself, but that number might actually be higher considering the game got an enhanced version for PS4 and Xbox One later on. Quite the investment for a game that kept players around for years. Now, crossing the $100 million mark, we've got Battlefield 4. As one of the biggest names in the FPS world, it's no surprise that EA's Battlefield games aren't exactly cheap to make. In fact, former Chief Creative Officer Richard Hilleman revealed that Battlefield 4 cost a mind-blowing $100 million to develop, making it the most expensive game in the franchise. The game did pretty well with critics and has sold over 7 million copies since release, but it still had a tough time keeping up with Call of Duty Ghosts, which sold nearly 3 times as many copies. With Battlefield 6 on the horizon, it'll be interesting to see if it can make a bigger splash. And of course, how could we do this video without mentioning Grand Theft Auto 5? Rockstar dropped a hefty $137 million on the development of GTA 5, and boy, was it worth it. Since its release in 2013, it's sold over 140 million units and raked in an estimated $6 billion in profit. And that's not even counting the ongoing DLC, GTA Online, and the next-gen ports that came in 2021. Add in the marketing costs, and it's safe to say Rockstar probably spent close to $300 million on GTA 5 over the years, which is a pretty solid investment for a game that just keeps bringing in the cash. And rounding off this list of top-tier games, we have Destiny, which came with a hefty price tag of over $140 million. Bungie's ambitious first-person shooter managed to build a massive fan base, winning multiple awards and maintaining an enthusiastic community. The game's success, however, came at a high cost, with its initial development funded by a publishing deal with Activision. The $140 million estimate likely only scratches the surface, considering the ongoing expansions and updates Bungie has added over the years. And of course, Destiny 2, which took everything to the next level, probably cost even more to develop, but Bungie's continued support of the game has likely paid off in the long run. Next, we're looking at Red Dead Redemption 2, a masterpiece that's as expensive as it is detailed. With a development cost somewhere between $170 million and $240 million, not including the marketing budget, Rockstar's attention to detail in this massive open world paid off big time. The game generated $725 million in just 2 days, and that's not even factoring the online component, which probably added to the total cost. Rockstar's ability to balance quality with cost has once again proven to be a winning formula. Then there's Cyberpunk 2077, which hit an eye-watering development cost of $174 million. After years of anticipation, CD Projekt Red's launch was met with a less than ideal reception due to bugs and glitches. Despite this rocky start, the game sold well, but the developer's share price took a big hit, showing that even the biggest budgets don't guarantee smooth sailing. Another game that broke the bank is Star Wars: The Old Republic, which came in at a cool $200 million. The MMO has lived on for years, continuing to receive updates and maintaining a loyal player base. Though its massive budget raised some eyebrows back in 2011, it's managed to earn back its investment and more, reportedly generating over $1 billion in revenue. Moving into the upper echelons, The Last of Us Part 2 cost Sony around $220 million to make. It wasn't just a hit on consoles, it also became a cultural phenomenon with its HBO series adaptation, which helped drive even more sales. Given its commercial success and critical acclaim, the high production budget definitely paid off for Sony. And finally, we've got Star Citizen, a game that has shattered all the records for development costs. With a staggering $514 million plus spent so far, this one's still in the works, having raised funds through crowdfunding and private investment. Production started way back in 2011, but as of now, there's no clear release date in sight. The scale and scope of this project continue to grow, making it one of the most expensive and highly anticipated games to ever be made. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.